Hello everyone, it's Alex here, and today as we're looking at my journey, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the insomnia side of my journey. Now, those of you who've been following my journey so far will be aware that I've got depression, I've got anxiety, and I also mention that I have insomnia as well. It's not something that we've talked a lot about on the blog so far. There is the facts section of the insomnia side of things if you wanted to have a look at that. But I thought I'd take just a couple of minutes and talk to you about insomnia. So, the insomnia for me started back in 2011. I think it was triggered by the death of my grandma. Now, 2011 I was at university studying French and linguistics, and it was my gap year. So, August time. About August time, I flew out to Lyon in France to do a gap year there, studying at the university, getting to use the language. The idea behind it was that it would develop my skills, get me using the language so I would progress, so I would learn a lot more. Which I have to say, just to put on record, is a very good thing to do. If you're learning a language, try and spend some time in that country. It had phenomenal results on my French. And I don't mean the kind of French that you get when you stub your toe on the door. But, so before going out to France, I'd spent the summer back at my parents', with my grandma as well, who was quite ill at that point. And so I go off to France, not sure at this point whether or not I'm going to see her again, because that was how ill she was. And I knew full well that if I didn't go, she'd kill me. So I went to France. Great opportunity that you can't pass up. And while I was out there, within the first couple of weeks of me being out there, she passed away. So that was when the insomnia really started to kick in. Now I'm telling you a bit about the insomnia because as I'm filming this, last night I had another bad night. Now when I say a bad night, a good night for me with insomnia looks very much along the lines of I get 5 hours sleep, maybe 6, occasionally 7 if it's a really good night. But last night was not so good. I was still awake at 3:30 this morning, still writing away, doing whatever, and it's one of those things where you go through absolutely everything you can think of. You try the relaxation techniques, you turn off all your technology before you go to bed, you wind down with a bath or in a book or something like that, you have a hot drink, preferably something milky, you name it, I've tried it. I remember sitting in the low intensity therapy, talking to the counsellor or therapist, whatever they'd be called in CBT, and he said, well, a couple of techniques we can try to fix this. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? Have you tried that? And as he started explaining the technique, I finished his explanation for him. It was one of those things where I said, yeah, I've tried it, I've done it, it's not working. And I really don't know why. I don't know what difference it makes. But with insomnia, they say that depression can trigger insomnia, but insomnia can also trigger depression. So I don't know whether these two came hand in hand, whether they came one after the other. I'm not sure, because I don't really know how long my depression's been going. But one of the difficulties that we find is with treating the insomnia. Doctors and professionals tend to like going down the route of the therapy and the behavioural techniques. So as I mentioned, switching everything off before you go to bed, giving it an hour or so before you actually get into bed. If you've been in bed for say half, 3/4 of an hour and not fallen asleep, get back out of bed, do something else. All those things that they encourage you to do. And that is a struggle when it's not working. The problem that I find is that with my insomnia, nothing seems to just trigger me off. Even, as my friend calls it, toddler therapy. I look after my goddaughter every now and again, and she will do her best to tire me out. 3 years old, running left, right, and centre, jumping on me, that sort of thing. But even that doesn't always tire me out to the point where I'll sleep. So it's one of those things where sleeping tablets would be a great benefit to me. The only downside is that doctors do not like prescribing sleeping tablets. It's very easy when you start a course of sleeping tablets. If you're on them for too long, you can become dependent on them, so you need them to fall asleep. So it's one of these things that they don't really want to do. Of course, next time I go to the doctor, I'm going to be talking about sleeping tablets, because it's almost where I come off the tablet, I go straight back to not being able to fall asleep. But with insomnia itself, part of the problem is not being able to fall asleep. So I'll lie there for a while, quite a good while, sometimes half an hour, sometimes an hour, sometimes two, before I fall asleep. And part of that is where my depression has set in and all the thoughts are going around my head, things I've not done, things I should have done, things I could have done better. Another part of it is where the anxiety is settling in. Have I got enough money to cope? Have I got this? Have I done that? Do I need to do? I should be doing, etc., etc. Worry, 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 or dark thought, dark thought, dark thought. So it's one of those where it can take a couple of hours to fall asleep. The other side is staying asleep. It is very hard sometimes for me to stay asleep when I'm actually, after I've fallen asleep, which then puts me right back to the start of trying to fall asleep. Can take a couple of hours, not so good, etc., etc. So it's really one of those big problems that you have where you can't fall asleep, you can't stay asleep, you don't get enough sleep, and that starts to have a knock-on effect. When I was at work, it was one of the things I noticed. If I hadn't slept well, my depression, my anxiety always played up more the next day. Thinking about it, quite similar to a toddler that hasn't slept properly, they tend to play up. But that's a side note. So realistically, not many treatments out there that I can find. I would be grateful if some of you know of anything that I haven't mentioned other than the behavioural therapy and the sleeping tablets, whether there are any other things that you can try. But effectively, even though it doesn't get much of a mention, insomnia is quite a big part of my life. It's normally when my depression really drops or my anxiety peaks. It's normally when I'm trying to get to sleep. At least that's the trend that I've been able to spot so far. But that's all from me on my journey with insomnia. I'll try and keep you posted on this one, even though it's not, as I say, one that I mention a lot. But I'd be curious to know some of your experiences. Have you ever suffered from insomnia? Why not leave a comment below telling me a little bit about your struggles if you have had insomnia, or alternatively, if you don't feel comfortable putting it on a public comment, then do drop me an email. I'd be quite interested to know about your struggles and what sort of techniques helped you. See if there's something that can get me to sleep at night. So yeah, that's all from me for today. I shall catch you next time.